I really think wines are made in the vineyard, so, not to take away from either me as a winemaker or other winemakers, you got to start with the raw ingredients. And I guess the passion has always been, how do I make it better in the vineyard? And so I think what means a ton to me is I think that's why winemakers like Gary Eberly and Steve Locke and Mike Mooney from Chateau Margine are buying grapes from me, because they respect kind of what I can do with it out there. That's what means a lot. And actually, as both a winemaker and a grower, I think the vineyard is much more complex, much more ever-changing, much more there's never a year that's like this year. That's the difference. Once you harvest the grapes and bring them into the winery, you're in control. Mother Nature's limited because you've got air conditioning and you've got refrigeration and you've got all these things. When they're out there, you're not in control. Becomes a youthful branch that produces olives. So they were let go for 80 years. Oh. And so when I took over the property, I had to clean them up and do all that. So today is kind of fun. We're tasting current releases. So this is our Merlot 2014, 2008 Merlot. And so I like to describe the aged wines as being a little more savory. They've had a chance to do all their magic in the bottle. As you open that bottle, that's the first time oxygen has been with this wine for a long, long time. So it will go through a lot of fun changes right here as we're tasting it, where this newer wine won't do that as fast because it's obviously just been in the bottle for about 6 months. Fun of being a non-distributed winery, because we're not really trying, even though some of you get mad at us. I've had people say, why don't you do it like you did in 2012? You got to realize we're only 60 acres. We only use a third of it. 140, 150 Yeah, no, I know. You definitely, you're good. Sometimes they go backwards a little faster. And so in the old days, we call it own-rooted. You can just take one of those canes and stick it in the ground, and it will then create roots and grow a plant. But the problem with own-rooted is then many of the diseases that are here in the United States, that vine might not make it. And so the common practice, the other reasons why we use roots as a winemaker is controlling that canopy. Remember how I was talking about that canopy? Canopy development is really important for us. But this is an old-fashioned, we call this head trained. In the old days, not a huge investment. Land was free, if you can believe it or not, or about $50 an acre. So you could start an old vineyard here and you would hand water that vine in the first 2 or 3 years, and then eventually it would just maintain itself. And so a lot of Zinfandel and Petit Syrah was planted around here. This is called the canopy, and if you can just imagine that umbrella that Jeanette has over there, and we pop it up, we're trying to get this to produce a canopy that would protect this in the sun. And I'll show you over here. Here we go. So, am I boring you to death? So this is one other way that I can. So if you notice down here on the ground, there's 20. Spend a lot of time maintaining this soil. So this is a cover crop to cover the strip, but it has many other functions. This is barley. Every other year it's starting to head out, just about. There's areas where I have, this is the natural grass, but this is a barley, and so we plant that to protect the soil. We also want it for organic matter. So we are growing rye. I'm not mowing it yet, as I want it to get a little taller, because all of that becomes my natural compost that in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years is what the grapes will feed off of. And so maintaining the soil health is part of that SIT certification. So we can just put fertilizer right through the drip hose. I mean, that's an easy, fast way to do it, but it's not as sustainable as creating a soil profile that the grapevines are exactly looking for. So we test the vines. As soon as these vines produce a flower. So they'll grow a cane out like this, and then eventually we'll get flowers. And if we pull the leaf on the other side of the flower and take petiole samples to the labs, then those labs can tell us exactly what nutrients this vine is either wanting. So it's kind of like us going getting a health checkup and having blood work done. So